Welcome to 10 Things You Didn't Know About One Piece unless you follow me on Twitter or read my column. We're going to get right into it. If you care about who I am and what I do, well, skip to the end of the video. We'll cover all of that there. But right now, we're just going to get to those juicy facts. Number 1. The image that you have in your head right now of the Going Merry. Got it? It's a lie. Well, at least some of the coloring scheme is. The first major public debut of it would have been in the animation, in the opening credits. During the credits, we see what has become Merry's iconic white figurehead. The only problem is that's not the color Oda had settled upon in his mind. The first publicly released version of Oda's rendition of Merry can be seen on the Volume 12 cover released in 2000. When I first saw this, I thought, well, maybe he was just going for like the gold image down here. Like this is the gold, so maybe he's going for a gold theme. It even has a pirate hat on it, so it looks a little bit off. But over time, I noticed that whenever Oda was drawing Merry in color, he went out of his way to make sure that the figurehead was unpainted. You can see this again on the cover of Volume 32, and on a surprising number of color illustrations that range from color spreads to jump covers, and even the covers of the Color Walk series. I think one of the most surprising ones is the one that can be seen in Color Walk 3. It's just, that's not an image that's seen very frequently. I don't even know if it's in a manga volume. And if you look way down at the bottom of that image, which I can't show you because of copyright laws, you can see a very tiny little Merry. Here's a bonus fact. There is one instance where Oda-san drew Merry's head in the kind of anime style, the anime coloring of white. That goes back to a poster that he drew in 2003. It's not an actual chapter cover, it's not even a Jump cover, it's just a poster, an insert that was included in an issue of Jump. It's kind of an iconic image. It's the crew painting a picture of a dragon that's, but it looks like a sheep. It looks like a sheep dragon. And they're surrounded by sheep, and they're, little antics going on. Anyway, in the distant background of this image, there's a castle on top of a hill, or a castle, mansion, something like that. There's a nice house. The top of that dwelling is covered in a sheep's head, a giant sheep's head that looks identical to the Merry figurehead, and the color scheme is exactly the same as the anime. While Oda remained firm in his depiction of Merry to the end, he had no compunctions about giving Mini-Merry's figurehead a color scheme identical to the anime's version. As of this video's release, thus far we've seen 3 cases of Oda drawing Mini-Merry, or Mini-Merry's figurehead, in color. And that wraps it up for our first fact. Number 2. You've probably heard about how Oda-san is a big fan of classic anime and manga series. Sometimes his assistants get a little sneaky, sometimes Oda himself gets sneaky, and they add little tributes to these series. But we're going to try to show you some rough renditions, and I do mean rough, to help you get a better idea of where you can find them. Let's start easy. Sailor Moon. There's a wig in Foxy's changing room during the Davy Back fight arc that's very close to Usagi Tsukino's headwear in Sailor Moon Super S. It's a Gundam! Thanks, General Septim. This robot toy from Dressrosa has a suspicious combination of letters on its stomach that look very similar to the words for Gundam. Elsewhere, we're going to go back to Foxy's dressing room, where we find another hidden goodie, the uniform of Char Aznavour himself. Well, this one probably wasn't drawn by Oda, but either way, it's pretty cool. Dragon Ball. For being such a huge influence on One Piece, there are surprisingly few hidden nods to Akira Toriyama's Dragon Ball within the series. But here's one of the most elusive. On Mirror Ball Island, there's a store name which is clearly something. Honestly, the sign might read Dragon Balloons for all I know, but it's certainly hard to imagine it being anything else other than the name of that iconic series. Doraemon. Doraemon is one of Japan's most beloved manga and anime series. Oda-san paid tribute to it very early on in his story with this member of Buggy's crew who looks like a Doraemon that ate one too many dorayaki. Hello, Kitty. Not satisfied with her Sanrio empire alone, Kitty-chan travels all the way to Wapple's store to get a piece of garbage that Wapple puked up. Blech. Alright, more on some of these later, but let's move on to the next. Number 3. Aliens and One Piece. Together. I can read your mind right now. You are thinking of the Anair space pirates, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. They are interesting, but we're going to go really far back into the One Piece chapters. Back to Chapter 9. In Chapter 9, you can find a hidden character named Domo-kun. Domo-kun is an alien. He has a buddy. His name is Unke-kun. And they're looking to take over the world. Kind of like a Pinky in the Brain thing going on there. They actually go even farther back than Chapter 9 of One Piece. Now, Oda detailed this in an SBS once, but the two of them were characters that he created as a high school student. He first hid them in his very first work that was published in a Jump magazine, God's Gift for the Future. Another well-known location that these two may be spotted together is on the hidden cover of the Japanese version of Volume 52, under the dust jacket. But did you know they can also be found under the dust jacket on the back covers of Volumes 53 to 60, getting into all kinds of trouble with Panda Man? Right, so more about this alien thing. It actually even goes farther back in One Piece than Chapter 9. In Chapter 97, there's a scene in Logtown where Zoro walks into the arms dealer shop. Here's a bonus fact. The general layout of the store is based on an actual replica weapon shop in Kamakura, Japan, Sankaido. Oda received inspiration for swords, pistols, and even suits of armor from some of the store's merchandise. Oda's autograph may be seen displayed on the ceiling of the shop, along with the autographs from many other prolific manga authors. Right, so as Zoro walks into the store, look in the lower left-hand side, or at least the bottom left, and you can see a little poster hidden on the wall there, and there's something scribbled on it. This is viewable in one other panel. The poster looks like an alien, but it just might be a coincidence. Or at least that's what I thought until I tried to read the text on the poster. Surprisingly, it's in English, and it reads, "He is a Grey." Yes, Grey as in the classic Grey alien of urban legend. But to whom was the artist referring when they wrote he? I have no proof for this, but I wonder if there was kind of a running gag between the assistants at the time that Oda-san was an alien. Where does this idea come from? Look in the inside flap of Volume 1. Now, it depends on which edition you have. If you have the Japanese edition, it's there in color. But if you look at the author's foreword page, there is a picture of Oda wearing an alien head on his real head, and it is very obviously a Grey alien. So I wonder if the assistants were like, "Hey, he's a Grey, he's an alien, he's a weirdo." Ha ha ha. Here's a bonus fact. There's actually a little bit of a story behind this photograph. See, the photograph was taken at the home of Nobuhiro Watsuki-sensei. He is the author of Rurouni Kenshin. How these details came to be known publicly was that the author of Mr. Full Swing, Suzuki Shinya-sensei, he drew a short comic which told, among other things, a few Oda anecdotes. As it turns out, the other people in the photograph should be well known to die-hard One Piece and Jump fans. The man standing to Oda's right is none other than Ito Mikio, who was popularly hidden early on in One Piece's serialization. The man shaking Oda's hand is Take Hiroyuki-sensei, author of the popular action series Shaman King. Alright, so enough of that fact. Let's go on to the next one! Number 4. So this next one has to do with the end credits of the first theatrically released One Piece movie, simply titled One Piece. And if you're sharp enough, you can catch a cameo by two characters from Oda's award-winning one-shot Wanted. The characters Gil Buster and Joe can be seen on the far right side of the screen. The background in which they may be found is an adaptation of the Chapter 79 color spread. Oda described this scene as a town in West Blue, so Gil and Joe should feel right at home there. If you have One Piece Movie 1 on hand, go find them. Number 5. Alright, this next one has to do with professional wrestling, so Steve Yurko and Ed, I know you're going to love this one. The people who create One Piece, I don't know how deep they're into it, but I know they at least like professional wrestling. The assistants enjoy it, the Oda-san likes it, they like pro wrestling, they like mixed martial arts, K1, all that sort of thing. Anyway, I want to talk about one of the most obscure, and it's a real clever one. It has to do with the Japanese professional wrestler named Antonio Inoki. I think a lot of longtime wrestling fans know this guy. He was very big over in Japan. He fought Muhammad Ali at one point. He has a very decorated career. He went from professional wrestling to mixed martial arts to hostage negotiating to a political career. I don't know. In One Piece, On the way to Drum Island, there are a couple shots that show Nami's bookcase in her room. One of them actually has a series of books where on the spines of the books, it spells out the catchphrase of Antonio Inoki, 1, 2, 3, da! If you want to go hunting for this one, check out chapter 131 and use your eagle eyes on page 97. And that's it for number 5. Number 6. Would you believe there was a time in One Piece's history where Ace wasn't super popular? Yeah, neither would I, because it's just not the case. Right, so there actually was a time where Ace had to be cut from the series. Well, not the series proper, but one of the Omake specials, the Ed O'Sullivan Show. This Omake comic, which debuted in the 14th log Frankie, showcased 4 pages of the Straw Hats acting as Edo period figures and ends with a party. Despite not showing up elsewhere in the comic, it appears that Ace is drawn in the uncropped version of this party scene. If you look at 14th log Frankie, you can't see anything. There's no hint to this whatsoever. He is entirely cut. However, if you look at the republishing of this same scene in One Piece Green Databook, you can see some items that appear very close to Ace's attire. You can see his hat, his pants, even his belt buckle, and the dead giveaway is the back. His tattoo. It's a white beard tattoo on his back. I hope someday we get a full uncut reprinting of this scene. Number 7. Here's a weird one. In July of 1999, Oda-san started experimenting with a nonsense character which he based on one of Nostradamus' predictions, the Lord of Destruction, Anglemois. The prediction itself is still considered esoteric by scholars, but essentially Nostradamus suggested that a great lord named Anglemois would return again and wreak havoc on the world, leading to its annihilation. Oda thought this sounded hilarious and decided to create a depiction of the great lord Anglemois. He included this depiction of Anglemois along with part of Nostradamus' prediction on Volume 9's cover flap. In the same cover flap, Oda noted that the world government was seeking the arrest of Anglemois. Haha, silly Oda, right? Only he wasn't kidding. In Chapter 97, an extremely tiny wanted poster may be seen on the wall of Smoker's room, and the depiction on it is that of Anglemois himself. Looks like the world government really wanted their hands on this guy. Oda followed this up in Volume 11 with a cover flap where he once again drew Anglemois, this time as a bus tour driver. Here's a bonus fact. Gil and Wild Joe aren't the only cameos during the end credits of One Piece Movie 1. Several chapters' cover pages were colorized and expanded upon for the film's ending credits. This includes Chapter 29's snowboarding cover, which was expanded to include Usopp. Check out the bottom of Usopp's board for an unexpected cameo. Number 8. This is one of my all-time favorite facts of One Piece. In Chapter 77, Nami is crying inside Gen's office, and behind her there's a wall with bounty posters on it. And one of the bounty posters is Krieg. Duh, we knew that. But if you look up and to the left of Krieg, you'll see a bounty poster with a man who has some familiar facial hair. My depiction doesn't do it justice, but the face looks strikingly similar to the Pirate King's right-hand man, Silver's Rayleigh. But that's not all. Looking down and to the right of Krieg, we can see a wanted poster that, although clearly different, is still uncannily similar to Robin's depiction on her bounty poster. You have to ignore the numbers there. The bounty numbers just don't work out. They're not the same, and they're probably very low. But we can probably chalk that up to hashtag continuity is really hard. So, is it Rayleigh? Is it Robin? What's the deal? Did Oda draw it? We don't know. Either way, they look very close to both of their designs, so it's a possibility that could be a nod to both of them. Number 9. Let's look at one more hidden message before we get to the final fact. Check out this scene from Chapter 168 with Tashigi and Smoker in a cafe. Nothing special, right? But look closer at that poster on the wall behind Tashigi. Zoom in and you'll find some gibberish, only it's not gibberish, it's Romaji, Japanese written alphabetically. The poster reads, "Konna toko made miru nante chikku kibishii yo," which in English means, looking this close means you're checking way too harshly. There's also a sign behind Smoker bearing a message that seems to say not to look at someone or something, but it's not entirely clear. There are quite a few of these hidden messages throughout the series, but they were never meant to be found by readers, so it's probably best we leave them alone until after the series is complete. In the meantime, check out the drink menu on the table in front of Tashigi. It even includes prices in belly. Number 10. In summer 2016, Fuji TV interviewed Oda-san to promote film Gold. So there was a point in this interview where Oda was discussing hidden characters, and of course they talked about Panda Man, but the discussion came around to other kinds of hidden characters and whether or not there were hidden characters that Oda created that hadn't been found by fans yet. When asked if there were such things, he said, yup. His only hint to this end was, I think it was a scene with bugs. Any One Piece fan should have been reminded of the Southbird hunt on Jaya, when the crew is terrified by giant bugs. Well, even with that in mind, it was really hard to track this one down. That's because it wasn't just a hidden character hiding in the trees or in the background. Oda used one of the natural designs of the bugs to hide this character. And that character was Anpanman. For 14 years, this hidden appearance by Anpanman went unfound. The answer is in chapter 231, when Sanji and Nami are being attacked by the ladybugs. If you look at them carefully, they look like normal ladybugs, but there's one way back in the distance who, if you look just closely enough, you could just barely make out the sad face of Anpanman on the shell. There's something else in this scene, too, I want to describe. Ladybug in Japanese is tento mushi, and tento means like falling or flipping over, rolling over, and that's literally what the ladybugs are doing here. So they're doing their name. They're tentoing tento mushi. Here's a bonus fact. There's also an Anpan woman on Amazon Lily. Of course there is. Here's a bonus fact. And for the truly dedicated One Piece treasure hunters, there's also a hidden appearance of Anpanman in Oda's first Jump magazine published work, God's Gift from the Future. Check it out. The Plank. There are probably some of you out there watching this, right? Who is this guy talking like he knows so much about One Piece? I'm just a guy. My name is Greg. Nice to meet you. I hope we can be friends. You can find some of my work on OnePiece.com. I write for the official One Piece website, where I do analysis articles for them. I also write for VJump, but that's Japanese only. The OnePiece.com I do in English and Japanese. I enjoyed making this video. I had an idea for a much bigger video, one that didn't have my face in it. I didn't want to be in it. But halfway through making that video, I realized, oh wait, I can't use manga images in my video, can I? About 20 hours of work went entirely down the drain. Too bad, so you now have my lovely mug. And I'm also on Twitter. On Twitter, I often tweet about One Piece, English and Japanese, and everything from what food I like to Game of Thrones. Thanks for watching. A big shout out to the creators of the background music. It's thanks to them that my on-camera awkwardness is reduced to a bearable level. And a huge thanks to the professional artist I guess I should say Ben Juwono, for allowing me to use his fan art of the Straw Hats in space. Whether this is officially a thing or not depends on you and your response to this video. If you liked it, let me know what you enjoyed about it. If you didn't, definitely let me know what you didn't like about it so I don't make the same mistake twice. Until then, keep searching for adventure where you least expect it. Any One Piece fan should have immediately been reminded of the chapters. Any One Piece fan should have immediately been reminded of the Southbird hunt who interacted with those crazy giant bugs that were... Any One Piece fan should have been reminded of the... Alright, so number 4 is an oldie, but it's... Number 4 is an oldie but a goodie. It's... Alright, this one's an oldie but a goodie. During the ending... This one's an oldie but a goodie. During the ending credits animals for many of the comic opening pages. Can you ever imagine there was a time in One Piece's history where Ace wasn't super popular? Yeah, neither can I, because he totally was always super popular. Just so popular. So hot right now. Get it?